Hello everybody and welcome back to the SRL TCR League here as we prepare for what is going to be an amazing 11th season of competition, and we kick it all off here at Donington Park. It is sure to be an absolutely cracking set of races ahead of us. Two races, of course, that will be going ahead today. We have got our first 20-minute race. That will be set by your qualifying. That will be starting in about 15 minutes' time. Then we have our second race of the day. That is going to see your top 10 results from your race one inverted. The rest of your field will then fall in as filed, and it is going to be an amazing season of competition, there is no doubt. We return to this league with 4 classes heading down onto the surface. As always, we have our top pro class that'll be getting out, and we've got a very strong field of pro drivers once again this season. Dan Mould returns to the fray after having to step back from injuries last season. He returns to the championship and will be heading out there once more in the pro standings. He will be joined by the championship contender last season, Kim Borkland, in that pro standings. You've got newcomers into that pro standings alongside your old runners as well. Daniel Downing takes a step up after winning the semi-pros last season. He's now into the pro standings this season. It's a very full grid of drivers. I'll talk you through the whole list. Dan Mould, Daniel Downing, Kim Borkland, Gordon Haig, Jack Brown, Chris McIntosh, Samuel Sproul, Mark Draper, Luke Woodhouse, John Brown, Craig Walters and Braden Sagasser are your drivers that will be heading out in your pro standings tonight. Now, of course, all of these classes are subject to change over the next few weeks as drivers find their relevant skill levels. Some drivers that are new to the league have been put maybe higher or lower than they actually are. Last season we saw a number of drivers get shimmied around. Primarily drivers were promoted out of the amateur field and up the order. Below your pro field, and once again returning for a second season of competition, is your semi-pro field. Like I said, last season won by Daniel Downing. It'll be someone else's baby this year with Downing up into the pros. Let me talk through your field in your semi-pro field for this season of competition. Again, familiar names and some new names. Demis Titchler, Ronald de Jong, Dek Crowther, JB DeJay, Stephen Fry, Peter Van Gool, Carl Hardy, Simon Moldecleve, Fraser Garrity, Daniel Lewis and Alan McCain. They are your semi-pro field for this season of competition. Our Pro-Am fields then, they're the ones that are next in line, your third class of the season as they once again get back out onto the track for this season of competition. Well, your field there. And I dare say it again, new names and familiar names. Ben Gibbons, Thomas Coombe, Vigard Olsen Leah, your champion in your amateur field last season, Bradley Sellers, Dami Herber, Stuart Gibbons, Lucas Henschel, Marco Mukalainen, Josh Taylor, Chris London and Paul Hurley. That is your Pro-Am field for this season as it stands. And then finally, your biggest field of drivers as usual, there is no doubt about that. Let's talk you through your amateur field. Chris Evans, Andy Littler, Torburn Mayle, Scott Malcolm, Kevin Marshallsay, Matt Pearce, Joshua Syme, Christian Larson, Michael Gagnon, Lewis McCaig, Marcus Gustau, David Price and Shamoy Samuel. I'll also have to add in the last one there as well, which is Per Havard Hafstead as well, stepping in last minute, and he will be joining the amateur field as well. So yeah, a very stacked field of drivers once more, just under 50 drivers registered for this season of competition, and out there today are 40 of them. This is a huge field of drivers, and around Donington Park. Get your popcorn out, guys. Get your popcorn ready, because we have got 40 cars, touring cars, heading out around the Donington Park National Circuit. There is bound to be, well, absolutely fantastic racing, absolute carnage as well. Our drivers getting to grips with racing with a lot of familiar names, but also a lot of new names out there as well. With that being said, though, they have a lot of time to get used to them. They've had 2 pre-season events already as the season has started. 2 weeks ago, we headed across to Sebring. Last week, we were in Lagos. They were our pre-seasons done. A lot of these names were out there, getting used to each other, getting used to the cars, and seeing how they would circulate around the racing surface together. We now kick it off for the first round of competition here, Donington Park. The first of 4 rounds that we visit a UK circuit. It is a UK heavy calendar this season. Mugello comes in next week, 17th of April, for the second round of competition. And we finish April at the Nürburgring for the third round of competition. We then head into May, and Silverstone kicks it off for us. That is our 4th round of competition. And the halfway point in the calendar, we head to Imola on the 8th of May. Watkins Glen starts the back end of the calendar on the 15th of May before we return to the UK. Snetterton back-to-back with Thruxton, round 7 and 8 in this championship. Mid-Ohio will be round number 9 on the 5th of June, and Circuit Zandvoort will finish the championship on the 12th of June. We didn't get Zandvoort on the calendar in Season 10. Season 9 we saw it, though, and some great racing around the Dutch racing circuits. And I am, for one, really looking forward to returning to Zandvoort for another season of competition. And for the first time this season, as it properly gets underway, I'm going to welcome you all to the Joseph Wright Broadcasting commentary booth here alongside SRL TV. We hope that you are going to be tuning in for the whole season of competition, and to make sure you don't miss any of those races. If you're watching over on the official broadcast at SRL TV on the YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You'll be notified when we go live, and you're not going to miss any of these races on a Friday night. Also, to show your support, give that stream a thumbs up as well. It really does help out SRL TV as they continue to grow. Over on Joseph Wright Broadcasting, though, if you're watching over on the Twitch, make sure you hit the follow button over there. If you're watching this on the YouTube, or you're watching one of the race highlights that will be available over on our YouTube as well, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And again, that little thumbs up, it really does help out a whole load. Right then, this is going to be an interesting season of competition. We do not have a defending overall champion this season. Adam Delmont not returning to the racing track for the 11th season of competition. What that does mean is, for the second time in a row, our overall championship has no defender. We do have previous champions out there, including the returning Dan Mould. He was your Season 9 champion, had to step out last season due to an injury. He has not fully recovered. However, he is trying to get down onto the racing surface again, so it's nice to see him out there, and hopefully he will do well. Talking about Dan Mould, he's back in the SRL Rosso machine for this season of competition. No longer partnered with Stephen Fry. Stephen Fry has gone off to Crest Autosport, joined alongside by Alan McCain, but this time he is joined by Jack Brown. Now, if you remember that name, Jack Brown, last season he was not in the Pro Championship. However, he was partnered with Adam Delmont in the Next Gen Racing Green machine. They went on to take the championship in the team's standings. Can they do the same against Jack Brown under that SRL Rosso banner? They'll be hoping both himself and Dan Mould are able to get down onto the track, do the best they can. And like I say, Jack Brown up into the pro standings for this season of competition, and he certainly has the pace. As I look over to the left-hand side, though, at all of our standings, and Jack Brown right now, the second fastest out there, but there is a huge gap between himself and the fastest, Borkland. 0.3 of a second. Kim Borkland racing under one of the many Sim Racing Norway banners that are heading out there this season, and I really do mean many. There's 4 different ones of them. One of them is your amateur endurance team. That is once again partnered by Torban Mail and your amateur defending champion of Vigard Olsen-Lea. Of course, Olsen-Lea now up into this, the Pro-Ams this season, no longer down in the semi-pros. Pulling up to the Pro-Ams with him was Thomas Kuhn. Of course, Kuhn was the man that took Vigard Olsen-Lea to the final round in that title fight. He lost out in the end around the Hungaroring. He'll be looking to try and find his way closer towards the front in the Pro-Am standings. Of course, that is a massive step up, though. And we saw your Season 9 champion in your amateur field under the name of... It's on the top of my head. I know what I'm going to say. I've just forgotten the name, which I feel is really bad of me. And I do apologise to Lucas Henschel. Of course, Henschel won the amateur standings in season number 9. He moved up to the Pro-Am standings. He had a dismal year last season. He did not have a great run of races. He'll be hoping for better this season. He said, as we spoke to him towards the end of last season, that he has learnt a lot behind the wheel of that machine over the course of season number 10. He's hoping to come back in strong for season number 11. And as I look out here, it doesn't look like we do have him out today in the first round of competition. Drop races, of course, for our drivers. 2 worst drops over the course of the season, not including the final round of competition, which means some drivers do take those drop weeks as, I'm not going to be here today, that'll be my drop week. 41 drivers are in here because Lucas Henschel has joined us for this one. He is the 41st of our 41 drivers. Everyone has put in lap times on the board, and I can't believe how big this field of drivers is. First of all, and second of all, that we've got almost all of them down here on the circuit today. 41 cars prepare to go racing around the Donington Park circuit. It's a tight circuit. It's going to be a really, really tough race around here today. But with 41 drivers, it's going to be even tougher. There is no doubt about that. I've got my track map here ready. It's very tattered and old because the amount of times I've come to Donington Park in this broadcasting booth in the past 6 months alone is astronomical. And what's even more crazy is how crazy those races are. We've had crazy races with 20 cars down there. We've had crazy races with 15 cars down there. Heck, we've had crazy races with 10 cars down there. 41 cars are going to be heading out for the first season competition. And all I can say is everyone out there today, you're watching either live, you've got it on in the background like I do when I'm racing, or you're watching this afterwards in the watch party that goes along in Discord at the end. I really, really hope that you look at this field of drivers and think, we've got to keep this up all season long. 10 weeks of racing with 40 cars minimum would be astronomical. I know that there are going to be a lot of people disappointed at the end of this one, though, because there is no way we're going to get these 41 cars around this circuit without incidents. There's no doubt about that. Penalty system that was introduced a little while ago. Well, guess what? It's here once again for season number 11, with each of the incidents having a different tier list, which means you have your tier 1, your tier 2, your tier 3, and your tier 4. Depending on the severity of your incident, depends on how many penalty points you get applied. The penalty points are a percentage of the points you gain in your races, which is important because, as that's a massive accident at turn number 1, because why it's important is drivers take their points from their overall race positions, which means if you were to just do a point blank 50-point penalty, well, that is going to hurt your amateur drivers a lot more than your pro drivers, of course. So a percentage for our drivers out there today. With that being said then, practice is done and dusted around this wonderful circuit. And now our 41 drivers are going to have to try and find some space on that circuit because they've got 15 minutes to try and get themselves a valid, quick lap time in this session. It's going to be absolutely ridiculous, but they are all going to be heading out there together. This is Craig Walters, who is one of the first drivers. Actually, he is the first driver out of pit lane. Underneath a new team banner this season, the Break Dancers are out there with Craig Walters being one of the drivers in that machine. And when we get our standings on the left-hand side, you're going to be able to see a little bit of a change to the broadcast graphics this season as we try to get more knowledge of teams and who's racing together on the left-hand side. So we'll see team logos on the left-hand side. Anyone without a logo, they are running as an independent, which means they might have affiliations out there, but they do not have a team that they are fighting for the team's championship, because there is a team's title alongside the overall and individual class titles. We head up towards the final chicane and we watch Craig Walters here head into the last chicane around Donington Park, and he is running in the Hyundai Elantra, and we'll get started on a lap of the Donington Park circuit. We ride on board as he heads up towards turn number 1. In your pro field of drivers is Walters. He goes into Redgate, getting onto that curving on the left hand side, pushes it to the outside, and now we come into the Craner curves. Right hand corner to start with turn number 2, into turn number 3. The whole car is going to shift its weight to the other side as you now swing to the right of the old hairpin, one of my favourite corners around the Donington Park circuit. I don't like this track, but I do like that corner. Coming through now, Starkey's Bridge and up towards McLean's. You want to keep it tight to the left hand side, get on the brakes and start to swing it across to the right nice and early on McLean's. Again, throttle down and up towards Coppice now. You're going to swing all the way to the left hand side, a nice early turn into the right. You want to kind of keep it tight. That was the rear end stepping out just a little bit for Walters, and he comes out of Coppice and onto Starkey straight, and now up towards the S's, where normally we would swing to the left if you're running the GP loop. The national loop swings to the right. We take the final chicane. Not a lot of fun for drivers to do that chicane. I know there's a lot of complaints about it, but Walters keeping it very much within track limits as he comes across the timing line to be the first man on the timing board. He certainly won't be the quickest though. That goes the way of Kim Portland, who was just behind him on the racing surface. We now watch the new team on the block as well. A lot of new teams this season, but Crescent Autosports are heading out there with Stephen Fry. Alan McCain, teammate, is not out there today. I'm able to see his name in the session so far. Fry crosses across the timing line to go and quick enough there for fourth in class. It's 11 overall. We will get those to display overall positions. You know how it goes with these bottom widgets. They like to annoy me and display class positions. There we go, 13th overall. Braden Sagasar, I knew that he was going to be a bit of a interesting mix into the SRL grid this season. He's racing alongside a number of few of the other names in a championship that heads out onto track just earlier than this one. If you missed that over on Joseph White Broadcasting, hit that subscribe button over there and you can catch more touring car action, where we were just down on this wonderful Donington Park circuit. Sagasar, though, he leads the championship in that one. He's looking to try and take the championship lead in this one in the early stages. However, Kim Portland goes faster on that lap of asking. Newcomer to the Pro Championship is Jack Brown. Certainly not to the championship itself, but Jack Brown, he got into the service not too long ago. And getting into the competition at SRL, he picked up a lot of pace. He learnt a lot in season number 1, and he heads out there in the Elantra, which seems to be quite a nice pick of the cars. We've got a good mix actually between the Elantras, the Hondas and the Audis out there. There is a nice mix of all three manufacturers. Velosters are absolutely rubbish since the updates. I don't believe we've got any Velosters out there. But Jack Brown here running around at the moment, chasing down one of the Sim Racing Norway machines, trying to get a lap time on the board. I'm trying to figure out which of the Sim Racing machines it is. It's Gordon Haig. He sits in 5th position as Jack Brown comes through the final few corners. Will come to put a time on the board. A lot of dust up towards turn number 1 there. Jack Brown puts a time on the board. Is it good enough for pole? It certainly is. Even running around behind Gordon Haig there, Jack Brown finds himself less than a 10th of a second clear of your semi-pro champion from season 10, stepping into the pro field. Daniel Downing, 0.003 of a second now separating the SRL machines. Different teams under the same SRL banner there, one being Rosso, one being purple, but two drivers that have stepped into the pro field for the first time this season, find themselves towards the front, and now Braden Sagasa, who steps into SRL for the first time, goes back to provisional pole. Your top 3 drivers are separated by 5 thousandths of a second. That is incredible. Simon Moldecleve here, running for Sim Racing Norway by essentially Selchford here, comes up towards the end. We will just be calling all of the teams the Sim Racing Norways. However, there are 3 different Sim Racing Norway teams, and then you also have your Sim Racing Norway amateur endurance team as well. So all in all, 4 Sim Racing Norways, which is why you see so many of those SRNs on the left-hand side. Marko Mukalainen wants to prove he does not need to be in the Pro-Am class. He should be up there in the pros right now, because he goes onto provisional pole position. Look how close your top 4 are. It is absolutely unbelievable at the moment as we watch the pole position driver of Marko Mukalainen coming through the old hairpin there and looking to try and improve on what is a very strong lap time. We watch Gordon Haig here stepping in for the first time. He partners this season with your championship contender of season number 1 of Falkland. Falkland at the moment sitting in 13th position. It's not just about getting in a quick lap here. It's not just about getting a lap without running off the track. It's getting in a lap without getting held up by anyone else. There are 41 cars in this session. Gordon Haig goes into provisional pole, knocking Kim Falkland, his teammate, down to 2nd position. Braden Sagasa now 4th position with Marko Mukalainen separating some of those pros. Chris London is showing amazing pace in that brand new Blitz Boys Motorsport machine, looking to try and find his way potentially up the order as well, because Chris London did not have the best of seasons last year running with Jazz Esports. He'll be looking to go even quicker this season, and right now he sits 7th position. Lucas Henschel, his teammate, down in 19th. Henschel, of course, did not have a great season last season at all. Stepping into Pro-Ams for the first time, he'll be looking to find some pace out there. At the moment, we wait for Josh Taylor and Chris Evans to get lap times onto the board. The slowest of all that have got lap times right now is Perhamad Hafstad as he comes across the timing line. He's 39th quickest overall, 38th quickest. Make that as he crosses the line right now, as we go and have a look at your Season 9 champion. He's your most recent overall champion. It is the number 62 machine back in the SRL Rosso. He races the Elantra this season of competition, and looking to try and get the whole season under his belt this time. I've had to back out due to injury in Season 10 in his defending title run. No defending champion this season without Adam Delmont here in your overalls or your pros. And you can see right now it's the 2 teammates, Delmont and Jack Brown, running together here. Jack Brown's 5th fastest, Dan Mould 14th fastest at the moment. The slowest of your pro drivers is Craig Walters of the Breakdancers. He comes out of the final chicane. He's not that much slower though. He's only half a second off right now, as your top 34 are within 1 second of pole. Your top 6 are within a 10th of a second of pole position, which is absolutely unbelievable how tight this field of racing is. And over on the YouTube, we say hello to Markin, who's unfortunately not able to get down onto the track, and we also said hello to Tom Racing, supporting Jack Brown there, running around as Braden Sagasa gets a lot of the sausage curve coming up towards the timing line. He dives straight down pit lane, will reset that car to go again if he wants to get out for the final few runs of qualifying. Marko Mukalainen here sits in 3rd position. He's the fastest of your Pro-Am. Alongside Chris London there, 2 Pro-Am drivers faster than your semi-pro field at the moment. Peter Van Gool ahead of Simon Moldercleave, Demis Titchler in 3rd position. And I must say, it's nice to see Titchler and De Jong teammates again this season. They went into their own teams last season. Well, I mean, Titchler was racing under the Sim Racing Forces team anyway, but De Jong partnered with Borkland last season. He's back under the Racing Forces banner, and he's back with Demis Titchler, so it's nice to see those two together once again, as we see drivers just wanting to come out of pit lane, but they're just having to wait here. They're waiting until it's clear, trying to just leave some space there. Vegard Olsen-Lear, your amateur champion in season number 10, out there for another season of competition, this time in your Pro-Am standings. He gets promoted to the next class up, running under that Sim Racing Amateur Endurance Team banner, Sim Racing Norway Amateur Endurance Team banner, I should say. And once again is partnered with Torbjørn Mael. Torbjørn Mael himself still down in that amateur field. Of course, remember, Torbjørn Mael had the opportunity last season to fight for the amateur championship. He was tied on points with Vegard Olsen-Lear at a moment in time, but falling down the order of that one. This is Matt Pierce running around in the number 83 machine and seeing what he can do in this season of competition. One of the many new names heading out onto the track for this season. Pierce getting back onto track, of course, in the SRL banner. Dan Mould finds time on his 8th attempt at the circuit. Dan Mould places his car on provisional pole position and displaces Haig from the front of the order here. Your Season 9 champion returning strong here as we say hello to Jay Cooley in the YouTube channel, supporting, of course, his own JC Academy team. We can see some of his team on the left-hand side. 2 drivers only a single outfit out there. Thomas Coombe is the highest of those right now as he runs around in 17th position. If you look on your left-hand side, you'll see the team icons. It will help you out on knowing who is racing with who. A lot of SRNs out there. Sim Racing Norway is, of course, heading out there under multiple different banners, just like we saw the JC Academy running under multiple banners, just like we see the SRL team running under multiple banners. The Sim Racing Norway team is taking 4 banners out there for this season of competition. We watched Demis Titchler heading out in the Hydro Race Racing Forces. He's giving the Audi a go. I'm so used to seeing the Hydro Race machine on the Elantra. It's the Audi that is heading out for Demis Titchler and for Ronald de Jong, his teammates. Like differences in their paint scheme there. That's going to be quite nice to note who is in which car, so we can tell the difference on those from an outlook. As normally I only have to worry about 25 liveries within an evening. Today I'm going to have to start figuring out 41 of those liveries to try and figure out who is who as we come up towards the end of qualifying. When qualifying ends, well, that is it. You don't get another run, so drivers now on their final laps of asking. They aren't going to get another one. We watch Jack Brown here come through the final corner. Is he going to be able to improve and move up towards his teammate Dan Mould at the front of the order as he crosses the timing line? It is 0.03 of a second slower than his personal best lap time as we try to catch some more drivers finishing their laps. Lucas Henschel here comes across the timing line. He's 22nd overall. He's done a pretty decent job, actually, Henschel, after a poor season last season. He's got behind the wheel this season and straight away a strong start here in the qualifying session as we come across the timing line. With 10 seconds left to go, Kim Borkland is going to be the last man to place a time in, I believe. And is it going to be enough to steal away pole position from Dan Mould? Kim Borkland across the timing line is 0.2 of a second slower. And that, my friends, is going to be the end of qualifying. And we are going to set your 41-car grid for the first session of the day. Let's get ourselves down onto the grid then. This is going to have to be one of the quickest grid walkthroughs I've got, even with 2 minutes. This is going to be 41 cars. Dan Mould starts at the front in your pro class ahead of Kim Borkland. Gordon Haig will start in 3rd position, all of those within a 1/10 of a second. Marko Mikalainen, faster than even the semi-pros. The Pro-Am driver starts on 4th, ahead of Braden Sagasa and Jack Brown. We then see Daniel Downing in 7th, ahead of Chris London. Peter Van Gool, the fastest for your semi-pros, in 9th, ahead of Simon Moldecleve. Demis Titchler will start in 11th, ahead of John Brown. Marcus Gestow starts in 13th, ahead of Daniel Lewis. Carl Hardy in 15th, ahead of Chris McIntosh. David Price will start from 17th position, ahead of Bradley Sellers in 18th. It is, of course, Gestow, your fastest of your amateurs in qualifying. Thomas Coombs starts from 19th position, ahead of JB Deshay. Fraser Garrity from 21st, ahead of Lucas Henschel. 23rd will be for Ronald de Jong, ahead of Vigard Olsen Lear. It's then Walters and Crowther. Fry and Herber, Gibbons and Hurley round out your top 30. Then a host of amateur drivers. Matt Pearce, ahead of Joshua Syme. Marshall Say, ahead of Mayo, ahead of Taylor and Larson. It's then Shamoy Samuel, ahead of Chris Evans. Per Harvard Hafstad, ahead of Andy Littler. And Lewis McKay at the back of the field. We prepare to go racing here then of the first of 2 races tonight. 20 minutes will be on the board for race number 1, 25 for race number 2. But welcome in here at SRL TV and Joseph Wright Broadcasting to round number 1 of the 11th season of competition here. The back of our field start on the final chicane. And if you think I'm joking about that, I'm certainly not. They start on the final chicane at the very back of the order here. So it is going to be a very tough launch. Trying to get it started halfway through a corner. We get ready to go then with 20 minutes on the board. We are green and away as we go racing. For the first time in season number 11, cars straight away onto the grass here as they fly past our camera. Everyone gets through, and at the front of the field, they are already single file. Midfield, though, it is 3 wide into turn number 1, but everyone has got through those opening corners without facing the wrong way, which I think is exactly the way you want to start one of these races, especially with how tight it is going to be out there in the midfield. It's still cars side by side trying to find any position they can on the early stages of asking. It's up and down the field with gaps just a few tenths of a second apart, and that was Dan Mould off the circuit at turn number 5, and that is Borkland backing out of it. I think there may have been some contact there. Gordon Haig takes the lead, and now Braden Sagasa is all over the rear end here. Looks towards the inside of Borkland, up towards chicane, has to back out of it. There's not going to be opportunity to make the move on that part of asking, as there is going to be Gordon Haig leading the way ahead of Dan Mould. Borkland under attack from Braden Sagasa. Sagasa to the outside. That is issues for Demis Titchler. Meatball flag penalty for Deck Crowther on the opening lap of asking, but this is Sagasa trying to hold it around the outside of Borkland and does manage to keep it around the outside. As we go into the Craner curves, it'll switch into Sagasa's direction, but through the old hairpin. Kim Borkland's going to have the inside line, a little bit of a nudge there. Sagasa's onto the glass, and Daniel Downing is going to take full advantage of that and makes his move through up into 4th position. Sagasa now down into 5th position. We jump down the order though because Joshua Syme is looking to try and make his way around the outside of Stephen Fry for 30th position. It is going to be the long way round, but it'll be the inside as we turn across into McLean's, and he makes that move work fair and square. And this is now JB Deshay. He's chasing down Ronald de Jong. Deshay stepping into the new Audi for this season of competition after sticking with the legacy Audi all the way through to the end of season number 10 when others, well, everyone else jumped ship into a new piece of machinery. JB Deshay hung tight. He's now in that brand new Audi machine, and he's looking strong in it as well. Stephen Fry issues through the final chicane. Lots of cars going off. It looks like that's definitely contact for one of the Sim Racing Norway machines. Broken suspension towards the front of this one, and that is a lot of cars out of the final chicane with meatball flags. So let's figure out what has happened here. Contact for Kevin Marshall. Say he comes back on. A huge whack there, and then it was just a collection for cars. This was Hastad. It was contact with his own teammate in the end. At the end of all of that broke his left front suspension. That's what's caused him to fall down the order. But we go back now towards Braden Sagasa, looking to return back up into fourth position. Daniel Downing goes defensive on the inside line here, but Sagasa just backs out, allows Downing to hold on for the time being, and that is Jack Brown all over the rear, looking to see if he can take advantage of anything that's going on there. Dan Mould looks to the outside of Gordon Haig here. Mould has got some significant pace around Donington Park, and he's going to get the switch across to the inside as that's Sagasa onto the grass in the background. Mould has the overlap through the crane of curves. He closes the door through turn number 3 and up towards the old hairpin. Dan Mould returns back into the lead of this race, and Jack Brown now past Braden Sagasa after he ran off the circuit at turn number 1. We come up towards McLean's, and it is all setting itself down there. Here though is Shamoy Samuel to the inside of Chris Evans. Evans trying to keep it around the long way round for 28th position. It is 4th in class, and they have got Andy Litzler just behind. He's looking to try and find his way up into 4th in class right now. Leading your amateur field is Marcus Gesdal. He is 12th position overall. Remember, these classes could potentially change as the event goes on. Unfortunately for Peter Van Gool, he is down and out of this race, which is a shame. He's the first total retirement that is displaying on my screen, but Josh Taylor, Matt Pearce, Stephen Fry and Hastad all down pit lane with their own individual damages. This is Ronald de Jong to the inside of Carl Hardy. Hardy running under a new livery for the first time in multiple seasons here. It is nice to see a change on the Result clothing team. I was talking about it in pre-season. I did like the old livery. It was a throwback to the Honda Yuasa racing team in the BTCC, I feel, but this livery, it has already gained a nice place in my heart. It is absolutely beautiful here, but for Hardy, a good-looking car is not enough to hold on to a podium in the semi-pro field, because here comes JB Deshea. He goes to the inside through McLean's and will keep it towards the inside as we head up towards turn number 8 of Coppice. It is side-by-side here. JB Deshea gets to the inside of Carl Hardy. Hardy now on that wider line might lose out to Daniel Lewis. Lewis looking to try and move up the order here potentially, as Hardy and Lewis have already traded positions in this race. Lewis wants to find his way back up the order. At the back of the field though, your amateur drivers, a lot of them getting caught up in that earlier incident. They have now sorted themselves out in all of this, but Matt Pearce, oh no, it was just, was it an accident for Matt Pearce? Was he just jumping out of the way of the race leaders? Matt Pearce jumps out the way of the race leaders, doesn't want to get involved at all, and even comes to a dead stop in keeping it out of the way of your race leaders though. Gordon Haig, second position, chasing down Dan Mould as it stands, and we come through up towards turn number 8. Auckland just behind all of this one as well. This is your fight for your win, of course, the first win of the season. It tells you who might be on task to take a championship across the course of this victory. Who won the first round of competition in season 10? Adam Delmont, of course. Who won the championship? Adam Delmont, of course. Can Dan Mould go on to win the first race of season number 11, place himself into prime position to take the championship? He was unable to defend last season. Can he defend it this season? Well, take back the championship, I should say, from season number 9, currently in the hands of Delmont, who is not racing in season 11. This to the outside of Lucas Henschel is Stuart Gibbons. Gibbons trying it the long way round through turn number 1 of Bradgate, down the crane of curves, and Henschel just keeps his car ahead for the time being in all of this, as Lewis McKay drops behind Demis Titcheler as Titcheler is trying to recover up the order here. Issues early doors in this one for him. John Brown all over the rear of Marcus Gesdal as they look to try and take 11th position in this race, as Brown is your lowest of your pro drivers, excluding Craig Walters, who sits down in 17th position. So Brown is looking to try and find his way up this order if he is able to. Kim Borkland is all over the rear of Gordon Haig. Remember, Borkland started this race in second. There was some contact between himself and Mould, and he gave up the race lead in all of that. JB Dejay here looking to get past Ronald de Jong if he's able to for 13th position out there on the circuit. It is to the outside for JB Dejay. De Jong, though, is going to keep it on the inside line, and that's going to be Dejay onto the grass. He gets it back across before Hardy is able to do anything with it, but we are going to. I talked about it, but we never actually saw that initial instant on the opening lap of asking. And I'm going to see now if we can jump back and have a little bit of a look here on the opening lap of asking as I try to figure out where on earth all of this happened. We go back a little bit further here. Ooh, there we go. Let's watch what happened to Dan Mould. Oh no! It looked like it happened even earlier than all of that one. Let's go back. I don't know what happened there, because Mould is already behind early doors with Kim Borkland ahead. So I'm really unsure what happened at the start of this race. We're going to have to go all the way back to the very, very start of this race. This is what happened then. This is how they changed positions initially between Dan Mould and Borkland. I mean, Mould's got a really good launch. Oh no, this is live. I was about to say, I hit the wrong button. We went to hit replay, we went live. Oh well, I'm not sure what happened there. We'll have to catch it at the end of this race if we're able to figure out what happened in that initial change of positions. Talking about changing of positions, Chris McIntosh here is behind Bradley Sellers, looking to try and get his way through as we come through the order. As Oh, why are we back here? That's not what I meant to do. But this is what happened on the first lap of asking. I hit the wrong button, but it's okay. It means we can find out what happened for the move for the race. Was it a slowdown from Mould? No, here we go. This must be where the incident occurred then. Dan Mould has behind. Yes, there's the initial touch. There was contact there, which is why Borkland decided to back out of it in the end. And then, whoa, look at that gaggle of cars behind that ended up being damaged for one of the clothing racing boys. Issues there, though, towards the back of the order, towards the front of the order, actually. But that was how the initial lead changed and then re-changed. Of course, Haig now sits ahead of Borkland. They remain that way. Downing, Sagaser, and Jack Brown are all very, very close behind here, though. The top six, your pro drivers that are at the front of your field, are there, very much so, with potential fights for the win. Chris McIntosh gets to the inside of Bradley Sellers. Sellers, though, is going to try and keep it around the outside as we come up towards Coppice, but it is going to be ahead for Chris McIntosh. He's up into 9th position. Bradley Sellers down into P number 10 as we come up now towards the final chicane. And they have settled themselves down in that one, as they have done in other fights as well. As we have a look in your amateur field at the moment, they've separated themselves quite nicely between most of the drivers. Christian Larson here trying to catch up to Lewis McCaig. That'll be for 32nd position overall. That gap is closing down, though, as we watch it for the time being. Larson getting up towards McCaig through the final chicane, but McCaig just carrying a little bit more speed as they come through the S's. Now, we jump up back towards the race lead here. We're over halfway through this race with 20 minutes that started it. It's 7.5 minutes that remain. Dan Mould has started on pole and is looking to convert that into race victory at the first race of the season. Adam Delmont, who took victory at the first race this season in Season 10, went on to win that championship. Is it a good omen? I certainly wouldn't say it's a bad one. A lot of curving there from Haig. You can see the sprinkling of gravel that has been kicked up along that chicane. It won't be unsettling the cars too much, but they certainly will be having to deal with just a little bit of lack of grip mid-corner there, keeping it very much within track limits. This is Carl Hardy. He's got Craig Walters all over his rear end as we come up towards turn number 1 for the 12th time of asking, and this is Walters to the inside of Carl Hardy, looking to get up into 16th position overall. Yes, they are different classes, but they take their championship points from their overall race positions. That is going to be Walters past Hardy here and up into 16th position. Carl Hardy down to 17th position as it stands. Fraser Geraghty looking to try and get the pace out of the old hairpin and get past David Price here as they come up towards the middle part of the course, actually the end of the second sector of McLean's there. Turn number 7, it remains in order right now, but this is going to be Borkland all on the rear of Haig. Mould has pulled a little bit of an advantage here. Borkland and Haig, they are teammates and they are running under the same Sim Racing Norway banner. They're running Sim Racing Norway Bay Polychemy here as we come up towards turn number 1. Borkland just not moving past Gordon Haig at this early stage. Remember that Borkland was in with a championship chance last season. Every position really does count in this championship. You want every point that you can possibly muster, but are there already team games going on? This is great for this team though, and taking their way towards the front. Of course, SRL Rosso are not doing too badly either. They've got Dan Mould leading this one. Jack Brown in 6th position right now. We come up towards McLean's, and it is going to remain in this line of cars in your very front of your order, in your pro field. Jack Brown has shot off just a little bit there. This is Paul Hurley of pole position. He's got Dammy Herber just behind him. Herber looking to see if he can find his way through. He's running not underneath the team banner because there's only 2 drivers per each team, but he is running that snail's pace racing machine. Keep an eye out for those. There's 3 of those cars, only 2 going for the team, or for the team championship. This is Chamois Samuel. He sits behind Andy Littler, and he's got Demis Titchler all over his rear end as well. Titchler runs onto the grass ever so slightly through the exit of Coppice there, up towards the chicane now. Chamois Samuel looks to the inside of Andy Littler, a bit too far back though, and it is going to hinder his exit here out of turn number 9 and up towards Redgate. It is going to be the outside line here for Demis Titchler, who's going to try and carry it on the outside of Chamois Samuel. Samuel is going to try and keep that speed on the inside line, and he certainly does as we come up towards the Craner curves. Turn number 2 to the right, turn number 3 to the left, and 4 Demis Titchler. That is all he needed to find his way through that position. We turn to Paul Hurley once more, pole position, and he is under attack from Dammy Herber. Herber to the outside line here through Coppice. That outside line is hard to keep the speed on, especially in these front-wheel drive cars that are wanting to pull you out and towards the grass on the outside. They managed to hold it still side by side here. Hurley keeping it to the inside of the chicane, but it is going to be just enough room for Herber on the left-hand side, but for Dammy Herber, he has to back out of that one, and Thomas Coombe is going to say, thank you very much, I'll take the pieces out of that, and he moves up to 24th position. That is 7th in your Pro-Am class. As we return back towards your top end fight here, Daniel Downing dropping off the podium just a little bit. Braden Sagasser is going to try and do something with Downing just up in front of him, and Jack Brown and Markku Mikulainen behind here are finding their way towards the towards that battle once more. Brown backed out a little bit. You can see some front end damage if potentially Brown's gone into the rear of Sagasa at some point, which is why he's dropped down just as much as he is, and why Mikulainen here has a perfect opportunity to try and move his way through the field. Braden Sagasa then across the timing line behind Daniel Downing. Downing's going defensive to that inside line. Sagasa's going to try and carry the speed on the outside of turn number 1. It's not going to be enough right now, and Sagasa is just going to have to wait behind for the time being. 2 minutes on the clock for Braden Sagasa as he gets into the old hairpin. He is looking to try and move his way up into 4th position here. It's where he started the race. It's where he wants to finish. He's got a nose in through Starkey's Bridge up towards McLean's. It's going to be the outside line here, but he is going to keep his nose in. He backs out as he just can't carry that speed around the outside line, but very much so he's going to try the move on the next corner to the inside of Daniel Downing. There's a little bit of a nudge here between Downing and Sagasa. Remember, Downing is your defending semi-pro champion from season 10. He's up to the pro class this season, and straight away he's getting into the mix of things, looking to try and get a really strong result. Sagasa stepping in to the SRL TCR League for the first time is looking to get a strong result as well. He goes wide slightly through the final chicane, kicks up a little bit of grass, and Daniel Downing is now going to be all over his rear end. Looks for the wider entrance into turn number 1 so he can carry the speed through the Cranet curve. 50 seconds on the board. We are going to get the white flag. It's not going to display on the left-hand side, but surely this will be the final lap of asking. And what is going to happen here between the two teammates as they continue to fight? This is going to be side by side between Deshay and De Jong, though. On the final lap of asking, a little bit of a nudge there. Deshay, is he going to be able to place a nose into the old hairpin? De Jong, is he going to be able to place the nose in? No, he's not. Deshay keeps it ahead. And now Daniel Lewis just behind is thinking, I have a perfect opportunity to move up onto the podium in the semi-pro field right now as we come through turn number 7 of McLean's. But it is going to be lights flashing from Gordon Haig for Dan Mould, though, with 8 seconds left on the board. It is going to be the checkered flag, and Dan Mould in his return to the SRL Championship will take the win in race 1. Haig ahead of Borkland. Sagasa beats Downing to the line in a last lap fight. In your semi-pros, they tried to come through at the end as well. Fraser Garrity here is going to drag race to the line. Craig Walters, his teammate, comes out just behind. So does Carl Walters. It was victory in class for Marcus Gadel. David Price took second in that amateur class. Torburn Mail in third in that amateur class. I think we might see a couple of amateurs promoted out of that class, though, and I think that win may end up going the way of Torburn Mail once classes are decided. Race number 1 then is done and dusted. We've still got another one to go with 25 minutes on the board. But with that being said, let's look at your results of the first race of asking, and do remember that your top 10 in race number 1 are going to be inverted on your grid for the second race of asking. So with that all said and done here are your results for the first of the 2 races. Dan Mould takes victory by almost a second over Gordon Haig, beating his teammate Kim Borkland to the line. Braden Sagasa took home 4th position, Daniel Downing in 5th, and Jack Brown in 6th. Marco Mikulainen took home 7th position ahead of Chris McIntosh. Simon Moldecleve taking home P number 9, and top 10 was for Bradley Sellers. And like I say, look at that top 10 order, because that is going to be your grid, reversed in race 2. It was then Marcus Gazal in 11th out of John Brown, Deshay in 13th out of De Jong and Lewis, Walters in 16th out of Garrity, Hardy in 18th, Price winning, coming second in your amateur class in 19th, and Vigard Olsen Leah stepping into the Pro-Ams for the first time. Not the best day on the track for him. He comes home in 20th position. 21st for Lucas Henschel in the end ahead of Stuart Gibbons. Paul Hurley in 23rd ahead of Thomas Coombe and Dami Herbert. Torburn Mail came home in 26th ahead of Joshua Syme. Chris Evans in 28th. Demis Titcher in 29th. Shamoy Samuel coming home in 30th position. It was then Christian Larsson in 31st, and Randy Littler, Lewis McCaig in 33rd, and Kevin Marshall say the last few drivers on your lead lap. Hastad having to pit, having damage, finished a lap down. We then had your drivers not finishing the race. Chris London ahead of Josh Taylor, Dec Crowther, Matt Pearce, Stephen Fry. And at the back of the field was Peter Van Gool out on the opening lap of Asking. We saw him going off. That was in that replay when we were looking earlier on the first lap of Asking. But then we have a look now at race number 2. And we are going to see how that one plays out. But actually, before we do that, I think it's good if we have a word with a driver or two, if we have time, out of the first race of the day. Because that was a very good fight for a lot of drivers. In fact, we will have a word, if we can, with one of the drivers that have been pushed up into that pro standings for this season. And after being in a lower class in the Pro-Ams, I believe, earlier in the season, moved up into semi-pros by the end. Jack Brown heading out in the pro standings for the first time this season. Jack, you managed to come home in a very good 6th position in that one. You were on the rear end of that top 5 fight. Do you think you have an opportunity? Race number 2, you're going to be starting ahead of all of those pro drivers. And it looks like we actually don't have Jack Brown with us, which is a shame. It looks like we'll have to have a word with him at the end of the next one. We will see instead if we are able to talk to another one of our drivers that was involved in a big old battle in all of that. In fact, and I think it's only fair, we talked to Dan Mould. He went on to win that race in getting pole position, and your return to the SRL TCR lead. Dan, it's a great way to start the season. You kept the sim racing Norway boys at bay, and you managed to take home victory.
Yeah, old injured man showing him how to do it, eh? Come on. What can I say? I wasn't confident on the start because I'd only had 2 minutes practice when I come into the session and earlier on. But yeah, epic race. Had a bit of a shunt off Kim, but he did the right thing and waited for me, and then just had to claw it back. Try to get ahead of Gordon. Yeah, and it paid dividends. I really enjoyed it. Not really, like I said, I'm not really enjoying these TCRs since the update, but don't seem to be doing too bad. So yeah, we'll just try to keep it going.
Definitely. I mean, fortunately this season with 41 cars, we only see the top 10 inverted, which means you have still got to make your way through, but you haven't got the amount of carnage that we saw last season with the top 15. So do you think you're going to be able to make your way back through towards the front, or is it now just about maximising the points and just getting the car to the checker flag?
I haven't got the confidence since the update in these cars as you had before. So I think I'm going to take it a little bit more, carefully and just see what happens. If there's an opportunity, I'll try and take it, but I'm not going to try and force nothing. I just want to finish the race, to be fair. That's the goal. Try to score some good points for me and for the team I'm in with Jack. So yeah, that's about all it is.
Right then, good luck for race number 2. Well done on victory in your return to the TCRs.
Cheers, dude. Woohoo!
As we prepare for race number 2 then, and drivers will get themselves out for 25 minutes of racing action around this Donington Park circuit, which I say we saw a lot going on, but not in the way of incidents. We saw a couple of cars coming together early doors. Yes, we had the chicane accident, but that chicane accident was pretty much the only accident that saw multiple cars having damage. In fact, most of the other incidents in that early doors in that one really were just 1 or 2 cars coming together, not a lot of damage involved in it. So very clean racing as a whole for a grid of 41 cars. Talking of a grid, let's talk our way through the grid for the second and final race of the day. 25 minutes will be on the board. Your top 10 inverted from race number 1. Bradley Sellers then 4 will start on pole position ahead of Simon Mouldy-Cleave, Chris McIntosh from 3rd ahead of Milka Leinen. Jack Brown will start in 5th ahead of Daniel Downing, And then 7th on the grid will be Braden Sagasic in Balkland from 8th out of Hague and Mould. The rest of your order were as they were at the end of race number 1, so let's talk through them nice and quickly. It's Gestel just missing out on an invert in that amateur class ahead of John Brown. It's then Deshay ahead of De Jong, Lewis ahead of Walters, Geraghty ahead of Hardy. It's then David Price and Vigard Olsen Leah for 19th and 20th position. Then we have Lucas Henschel ahead of Stuart Gibbons, Paul Hurley and Thomas Coombe. Dammy Herber then came across the line in 25th ahead of Torburn Mail, Joshua Simon 27th ahead of Chris Evans, Demis Titchler from 29th and Shamoy Samuel from 30th. We then have Christian Larson in 31st ahead of Andy Littler, Lewis McCaig ahead of Kevin Marshall, Harvard Hafstead in 35th ahead of Chris London. We then have Josh Taylor in 37th ahead of Deck Crowther, Matt Pearson 39th ahead of Stephen Fry, and Peter Van Gool will be starting from the back of the order. That will be only, of course, if Van Gool gets himself out onto track here. I don't think we will see him out on track in race number 2, which means we'll see only 40 cars prepare to go themselves racing. If you're watching over on the SRL TV YouTube channel, make sure you hit the subscribe there. If you're watching on either of the Joseph Wright broadcasting channels, make sure you hit the follow, subscribe, whatever it might be, to show your support to both SRL TV and Joseph Wright broadcasting. Make sure you don't miss any of these wonderful Friday night events. Right then, 25 minutes will be on the board. There they are. We prepare to go racing for race number 2 here at round number 1. And we are away off the line for the second time tonight, and it is a bit of a mixed bag start towards the front. Some cars getting great launches, other cars getting a little bit bogged down, and that includes your pole man, Bradley Sellers. He's already fallen down to 3rd position off the line here. Moldicleve finds himself up into 2nd position, but it is Chris McIntosh who has found his way to the very front of the field here. It is side-by-side action down the hill, and we have a car off in the background already. That is Stuart Gibbons down and out of the race early doors here. This is side-by-side in the midfield. Paul Early, Thomas Coombe come through the old hairpin and looking and trying to keep it clean. Once again, we see the teammates of Geraghty and Walters battling it out there on the circuit. The worst thing you have is teammates coming together in an instance. They'll be trying to keep it nice and clean between themselves here and off of the start. There's contact there, as that is the 911 machine of Gordon Hay involved in all of this, and that is also the 62 machine of Dan Mould included. He wanted to keep his nose clean. He didn't keep his nose clean. It is a mixed bag on the start line there, and this is going to be even more accidents up towards the chicane. This could be a big one into the chicane. It certainly is a big mess there through the back end of the field. A lot of cars have just found themselves collapsing out of this one, and not the way they would have wanted race number 2 to get going here, and already with issues throughout the field, and it was the top end and the back end. We see with Meatballs, Dan Mould, Titchler, De Jong, Marshall Say, Mayo, Gibbons, Crowther and Price. Jack Brown was out early doors. I think that might have been with a connection issue rather than a meatball issue, although I cannot confirm that at this stage. As we look, this is towards the front. This is Balkland. He's managed to keep his nose clean on the opening stage of this race as we come up towards the chicane here. It is going to be Kim Balkland looking to make his way past Daniel Downing. Chris McIntosh is leading the way here. He is a pro driver. Important there as the way that Balkland just bumped over the curves. Mikalainen slamming into the rear end there. Contact and a little bit of damage on the front end. That's Joshua Syme pulling to the left-hand side here. It looks like he's just trying to let a few cars through, the Pro-Am drivers through. What it does do is invite Chris Evans looking to the lead now of the amateur field of drivers. As we saw, a lot of cars out, including one of our amateurs of Marcus Gestel, who's almost made his way inside the top 10 at race number 1. Bradley Sellers is all over the rear end of Simon Moldicleve here. Moldicleve has moved his way into 2nd position in this race off the starting line. Sellers, though, looks towards the inside of McLean's, has to back out of it at the moment and stay behind. We come up towards the turn number 8 of Coppice, and Sellers keeps his nose ahead of Daniel Downing here, but Downing is going to place it in a position to try and make this move through. How quickly does he try to dispatch Sellers here? Is he going to make the move into chicane? He certainly doesn't. He backs behind and sorts himself out in all of this. Shamoy Samuel is on the rear end of Chris Evans now, looking to try and take the lead in the amateur classes. Joshua Syme has fallen down the order to 20th overall. Braden Sagasa comes down pit lane. I wonder what that might be for. There's no meat ball, but there could definitely be damage. And how quickly he just stopped there is definitely a quick repair for Sagasa. So no meat ball for him, but damage definitely picked up as Borkland is all over the rear end of Daniel Downing at the moment. Right then, with that being said and done, race number 2 got off to a very tough start for our drivers out there. In fact, we will see if we can have a little bit of a look at some of that. This is Torburn Mail. Look at that accident. There's the contact, there's more contact, and it's just loss of control from Mail over into the air. Somehow, no one collected. I honestly have no idea there how no one was collected in that instant, but no one was collected in that accident, which is absolutely astronomical. Kim Borkland here, looking to the outside of Daniel Downing. It's for 3rd position overall as we come through turn number 1. Borkland tries to keep it on the outside line, but Downing has the car placed exactly where he needs to for the time being and is able to maintain that position as it stands. Josh Taylor looking to try and get around the outside of Andy Littler. They're in different classes, but the positions mean something. Taylor stepping in for the first time this season and running in that JC Academy machine, looking to try and break his way into the top 20. Daniel Downing has got past Muldercleave. It looks like Muldercleave has had some sort of issue on this lap of asking, but here comes Taylor to the outside of Andy Littler to make that move the long way round. It will turn to the inside though as we go into McLean's, and that's also going to be Matt Pierce getting past Andy Littler as well. And this is how the position changed for Pete number 2 as Muldercleave fell behind Daniel Downing. It was up towards McLean's in which that overtake was made, and it was a dart to the inside there, and a nice move for Daniel Downing. Josh Taylor here has maintained his 20th position and has got a good run away from the cars behind. Back towards the front though, and Muldercleave though is putting pressure on Daniel Downing. So after losing out that position last lap, is he going to try and help one of his Sim Racing Norway's compatriots there, not his teammate? Muldercleave running in a different offshoot of the Sim Racing Norway team, but running under that Sim Racing Norway banner. Is he going to be helping Borkland in all of this, or is he going to fight with him? Well, it's early doors to be doing any team battling, but they are ultimately in separate classes. Muldercleave leading your semi-pros right now. He's 3rd overall. Is he going to let Kim Borkland behind? The Muldercleave driver racing under the Sim Racing Norway by Eek Century Selford team there, whereas his teammate running by Polykemi just behind him in 4th position overall. Daniel Lewis, John Brown, they find themselves together out there. The SRL Green Machines, they're running around 8th and 9th overall, 2nd and 3rd in class. It could be a double class podium within the team fights here as they come through turn number 1 and see what is going to happen for each of those as the race has only just broken into the 8-minute barrier right now. There's a lot that has happened in the early stage of this one, including an incident for Pearl Harbor and Hafstead. Through turn number 1, it's a loss of the rear end. Now that is extremely strange. You can see the brake lights on, but in a front wheel car, they recover in a very different way to a rear wheel car. If you start sliding in one of these cars, just smash the throttle. Don't take it easy, don't hit the brakes, your car will loop around, mash that throttle, it'll pull you back straight again, and there we go. Swap for 3rd position was that. That was definitely team play there from Moldicleve. There was no way that Borkland would have just naturally had that overspeed. Borkland being let through by Simon Moldicleve. Moldicleve has the positions over his fellow semi-pro drivers, so he does have a really good opportunity here to find himself through up the order during the championship fight as well. He doesn't need to take third position right now, especially, which would be a detriment to his teammate, bearing in mind a lot of the pro drivers caught up in incidents. Sagasa 23rd, Gordon Haig 25th, Dan Mould 30th. They are all still out there. Jack Brown is 2 laps down, but still lapping in 38th position. They understand what it means to take points onto the boards, how important it is to finish each and every race in a season, not going out early, even if you are multiple laps down, just getting those points on the board. Yes, they're likely going to be a drop week. This is likely going to be a drop week for our drivers that are finding themselves down at the very back of the order, whereas normally they'd find themselves in the front of the order in both races, like Portland, like Downing, like McIntosh. However, they're still taking those points, because if they're not here for a week or two, if they have an even worse double end to their weekend, they have technical issues, they have crashes that are their faults, aren't their faults, whatever it might be, you've got to get it to the end. Consistency is key, and sometimes consistency comes in just crossing the line and getting to the end of the race. This is Carl Hardy, Daniel Lewis, they're fighting out for second in your semi-pro field right now. Carl Hardy finds his way past Daniel Lewis and John Brown. I said earlier that he was in the podium of the semi-pros. I do mistake myself. He is in 5th in your Pro-Am machines. That is where, in your Pro machines, I should say. That's where John Brown is sitting right now. But Carl Hardy is leading this train of drivers, which includes your amateur champion from season number 10, Vigard Olsen-Leah. He's up in 12th position now. I said he wasn't having the best of weekends. I take that back, actually. There were a lot of pro drivers that did finish behind him in race number 1, and he's 3rd in class right now. For a driver that is only just stepping into that class, who was competing in the lower class in the last season, yes, he won that championship, but he was at the level in which he needed to race against the amateurs. He stepped into this Pro-Am class, and actually he's coming good with that. He is stepping in and proving he does have the pace here. And I'm going to say that Marko Mikalainen could find himself up in the semi-pro field before the end of this season. I'd say within a week or two we might see Mikalainen finding himself up in that semi-pros, because he was fast in qualifying, he was fast in race 1, and he's fast again now. Chris London has had issues. He had issues last season. That's not who we wanted to watch here. Here we go, Chris London. He had issues last season, and it was a recovery there, and it was a spin, as that was Haig, I think it was, who was off to the side in the initial part of it. There was more contact with the 36, and that's just a shame, isn't it? Something's happened between these two. Haig looks for the overtake there. Oh, big accident ahead of Haig. And then he's collected in with Stephen Fry. What's happened here? Whoa, who didn't brake? Who was that just did not brake in that corner at all there? Was it the 999 machine that just didn't slow down? Andy Littler. It was just Andy Littler. He did not brake at all for that chicane. Massive whack on the rear end of Stephen Fry. Fortunately drives ahead, not too many issues. Littler gets away without too many issues, but then obviously we saw that spin going on behind as well. We return back live as JB Dejay has gotten past Daniel Lewis. Lewis has had some issues. Here we go. Through the old hairpin, he's onto the grass on the exit of the old hairpin. He gives up position there to John Brown. And then with that slowdown that you get from running out wide there as well, he had to give up to JB Dejay. That means Dejay now back onto a class podium in this race. Lucas Henschel wants to get past Vigard Olsen-Leah. Henschel won the amateur standings 2 seasons ago in season number 9. Olsen-Leah won it last season in season 10. It is the battle of the amateur champions in the Pro-Am field. They're going for third position. Olsen Leah ahead of Lucas Henschel right now, and that behind is Thomas Kuhn. He was fighting Olsen Leah for the championship last season, missed out on the final round of asking at Hungaroring. He'll be looking to try and take a fight early doors in this one, and right now he is just behind this battle for the podium between Vigard Olsen Leah and Lucas Henschel. Henschel is going to look to see if there is a way potentially past in all of this. We ride on board with Thomas Kuhn, who can see this fight going on in front of him. Talking about fights going on, your podium overall, McIntosh leaving Downing, leading Falkland first, second and third position are going to be going at it, as we've still got 10 minutes left on the board here. We are far from over in this second race of the day. Anything can and anything will happen, as it always does in these events. Demis Titchler out officially early in this one alongside Stephen Fry, Stuart Gibbons. I'm trying to see if I can find anything that happened to Demis Titchler on my right-hand side, but there's been so much going on that I can't quite figure out. It looks like, here we go, what's happened? Ooh, to Demis Titchler. Whoa, a big old knock and a massive hit with the wall. Who was that with? That's who I'm now trying to figure out. Who was that with? Ooh, out there. Was it Torburn Mail? It was Torburn Mail that's with. Can we see that on board? Here we go. Look at the wheel. Not. He corrects to the right to correct the slide, but there's certainly no moving across to the left in all of that one. Yeah, I think they're both running straight, aren't they? Both their wheels are straight, but on board Titchler there. That was a massive wreck. Back to, well, towards your front then we go and look. This is McIntosh, Downing and Falkland. They lead the field right now. Downing is 0.2 of a second behind McIntosh. Falkland half a second behind that one as we come through turn number 4 I should say, of the old hairpin. As they continue their fight in the very front. It is actually one of the closest fights out there, but not the closest, because Garrity is on the rear end of Larson here, and Andy Littler, after getting involved in that accident at the chicane, Littler will need to go down pit lane to serve a penalty, and that was Garrity making his way past Larson. Separate classes, but again they take their championship points from their overall race positions. Gordon Haig has got that meatball flag. We saw that earlier on with the accident down turn number 1. It put him out of this one. Andy Littler is serving that penalty. Will we see him out on circuit once again? I don't think so, but if he doesn't get back out on track, that penalty will definitely be not what he wants, and he will get a penalty, Andy Littler, for the last chicane accident. There's no doubt about that one. He'll be wanting to get himself out there, because if he doesn't finish his race and takes no points, that penalty will then be applied in his next race result. Get out there, get the worst points that are on the board, but get your penalty from those points. I know that's not how you should take it, but it is the way to cheat the system at the end of the day. But for some of our drivers, they're just having absolutely a mare of a weekend. Littler's down pit lane. Torburn Mail has got black flags as well. He'll have to come down pit lane, and what was a decent race number 1 has turned into an absolute shocker of a race number 2 for Torburn Mail. Back to your lead fight though, and it is Chris McIntosh leading Daniel Downing. Kim Falkland in third position right now. Look how much curbing McIntosh takes through that final chicane. He is going to kick up a lot of glass here, and it is going to invite Daniel Downing to the outside line up towards turn number 1. Daniel Downing is ahead, but McIntosh goes late on the brakes. There's a little bit of contact there, but McIntosh holds the door. Downing flashes his lights, but here comes Kim Falkland to the inside. They run side by side as they come down the Craner curves. For Falkland, he gets his nose ahead and he finds his way into second position. Kim Falkland up to second. Daniel Downing down into third place right now as we come up towards McLean's. McIntosh leads. Downing will be wanting to find his way back ahead of Borkland, up towards McIntosh even as he looks to the inside, up towards McLean's, but for the time being he has to stay just behind in all of this one. Torban Mail on pit exit. Has he come to a stop to let drivers through? Yes, that's exactly what's happened there for Torban Mail. Lucas Henschel here looking to try and fight for that podium that we talked about earlier. It's Thomas Coombe has got past Henschel for the time being though. Not sure when that one happened, and I'm scrolling back here. Here is where that one happened for Thomas Coombe. He got past Lucas Henschel and into P number 4 in class. And it looked like a slowdown there from Henschel, but back towards your lead lap fight though, and it settles itself down. It was for a moment that they were side by side. Olsen Lear holds on to Thomas Coombe. These two have both been promoted up and out of the amateur field. They thought they might separate themselves from each other in all of this, but no, in the Pro-Ams they found themselves together once again. Your season 10 rivals, Vigard Olsen Lear and Thomas Coombe. Lucas Henschel though is chasing on just behind. Here comes Kim Borkland to the inside of Chris McIntosh. He's trying to get that position, but he can't quite do it. He drops down to second, and Borkland stays ahead. But here comes Daniel Downing towards the grass there to hold on to second. It's going to keep McIntosh on a really tight line, but McIntosh keeps it together. Borkland cuts the chicane. We'll have a slowdown, and we'll be 3 wide for the race lead up towards turn number 1. Borkland will fall back down to third position for the second time of asking. Downing's going to try the outside line on McIntosh. Now goes for the switch across to the inside. McIntosh though is keeping his nose in as we come down the Crane of Curves. He needs to get himself ahead on the left hand side. If it goes the way of Downing, the old hairpin will confirm the lead for Daniel Downing, and that's exactly what it's going to do. But McIntosh tries to carry the speed on the wider line, has to tuck himself in behind, and here comes Kim Borkland. Borkland onto the grass there as they come up towards McLean's. This is the fight for the race lead right now. It is absolutely astronomical to the outside for McIntosh. He tries to hold that outside. No, he backs out looking to do the switchback. It's not going to work. Borkland backs out just that little bit earlier to keep himself really tight there as he comes through turn number 8 up towards the chicane though, and McIntosh has to wait behind. No, he doesn't. He gets the speed out of the final turn, and the number 11 moves back into second position. But this fighting for P2 is now allowing Daniel Downing to walk away. Remember that Downing won your semi-pro championship last season. He has stepped into the pro championship for the first time this season, and he is already showing absolutely brilliant pace right now. Borkland all over the rear end of Chris McIntosh as we come through the old hairpin. A little bit of grass being kicked up by Daniel Downing. Borkland going slightly wider on the exit there. This gap though right now, 9/10 of a second. Thomas Coombe has found his way into, no, he did find his way ahead of Lucas Henschel into third in class. He is going to spin Olsen Lear though, almost, as Olsen Lear gets it back straight. Here comes Paul Hurley to the inside to move into fourth in class, but Lucas Henschel has moved back onto a Pro-Am podium. Olsen Lear trying to hold it on the outside of Paul Hurley here. Hurley's going to have the inside through Coppice and up towards the final chicane. Hurley gets the overlap. Is he going to move across to close the door? He remains in the middle of the track there, as that was for a moment Dammy Herber getting close to the rear end of Thomas Coombe. Potential contact, but they do keep it clean as Bradley Sellers finds himself off at turn number 1 and down a number of positions. Contact with Craig Walters sends him onto the grass. For Sellers, it's 2 positions lost. It's down from 5th to 7th. Still a really strong weekend for the Pro-Am driver. This is back to this fight though, as Carl Hardy now moves past Sellers, and this is John Brown looking to see if he can find his way up the order as well. At the moment, though, Brown is going to have to hold on to 9th position in this race. Back towards your leading cars here, and as we come up towards the timing line, are we going to click on to the white flag lap? No. We are going to get just about here, with about 15 seconds to spare, 2 more laps of racing action around the Donington Park circuit. It's been a great opening round to this season of competition. If you want to make sure you don't miss out on any more of it, hit that subscribe button on SRL TV or on Joseph Wright Broadcasting, and make sure to hit that thumbs up as well to show your support on the live stream. We come down the back end of the circuit towards the old hairpin. Kim Borken, 4/10 of a second off of Chris McIntosh. John Brown over the rear of Bradley Sellers, looking to try and get through, and right now it is Chris Evans leading your amateur field ahead of Shamoy Samuel, but Joshua Syme looking to take 2nd position away from Shamoy Samuel as we come up towards the old hairpin here. This is the fight for 2nd in class. It's 19th overall in your amateur field. We can see side-by-side action behind. It is Dan Mould and Fraser Garrity. Mould to the inside of Garrity through turn number 4 of the old hairpin. Up now towards McLean's. Mould has to hold it the long way round, but it will turn to his inside line. In turn number 8 is Garrity, able to hold the speed on the exit of 8. He's certainly trying, 7 of McLean's. He is certainly going to try there, but it is not going to turn into a move just yet. The long way round of Coppice, and Dan Mould will get himself ahead of Garrity, and defensive. White flag action here then at the Donington Park circuit. Daniel Downing is leading the way. Is McIntosh going to be able to stay ahead of Kim Borkland? All of these pro drivers, of course, are going to be benefiting from the issues for their counterparts. Braden Sagerson, Jack Brown, Gordon Haig, all having issues at the start of this 2nd race. Dan Mould, of course, as well. Don't forget him. He won race number 1. He's going to come home. It looks like 23rd. He is fighting Fraser Garrity, though, for 22nd position. We come up towards the final chicane. And in the 2nd race of asking, Daniel Downing, your semi-pro champion from season 10, is going to kickstart his pro campaign with a victory in race number 2. Chris McIntosh will take 2nd. Borken will round out the podium. Mouldercleave will take victory in your semi-pros. Mikalainen will take victory in your Pro-Am machines. Fight for 2nd in your amateur. Shamoy Samuel is going to try and keep it ahead of Joshua Syme into the final chicane. No moves there. Chris Evans takes victory in your amateur field, but here it goes on the exit for Joshua Syme, trying to get it past Shamoy Samuel. Can't do it. That was Josh Taylor getting himself into the mix. There was no position for him there, and for Daniel Downing it was half a second behind Fraser Garrity. 24th position in the end. This is the last lap fight, though, between Per Harvard Hafstead and Lewis McCaig. They come up towards the final chicane. It is going to be McCaig behind Hafstead here, up towards the timing line. Hafstead keeps the speed, though, ahead, and it will go the way of Hafstead. 29th overall, 8th in class, 9th in class for Lewis McCaig, and they will be your last drivers, in fact, across the timing line, with the rest of the field all being laps down at the end of that one. And with that being said, we'll talk you through the results of race number 2. Then we'll have some interviews with your racing drivers. Right then, it was a great victory for Daniel Downing at the end of race number 2. He held it ahead of Chris McIntosh, who put up a stellar defence, just wasn't able to keep it in the lead by the end. Kim Borkland came home in 3rd position. Simon Mouldercleave won the semi-pro field, took 4th overall ahead of Craig Walters. Marco Mikalainen took home 6th overall, winning that Pro-Am field once again. Carl Hardley taking home 7th ahead of Bradley Sellers. John Brown taking home 9th, and JB Dejay rounding out your top 10 in race number 2. Daniel Lewis came home in 11th ahead of Lucas Henschel. Paul Hurley crossed the line in 13th ahead of Vigard Olsen-Lear. Thomas Coombe coming home in 15th position in the end after that massive fight going on between the group of those drivers. And then it was Dami Herber behind in 16th. Braden Sagasa recovered after the early accident. 17th position out of Chris Evans. Shamoy Samuel took home 19th. And Joshua Syme took home 20th position. 21st position was for Josh Taylor. Then it was Fraser Garrity and Dan Mould. Matt Pearson, 24th, had a Marcus Gestow. Christian Larson, in 26th, had a Ronald de Jong. Kevin Marshall, safe for Harvard. Hastad and Lewis McCaig in 30th. A lap down was David Price. 2 laps down was Torben Mayle and Jack Brown. And out of the race before the end, Gordon Haig, 5 laps down. Andy Littler, 9 laps down. Chris London, 13 laps down. Stephen Fry and Demis Titchler, 14 laps down. Stuart Gibbons, 21 laps down. Det Crowther out on the opening lap of asking, and Peter Van Gool not starting the second race of the day. Now, with that all being said, we do need to have just another quick jump back here to race number 1, because there was a lot that happened in race number 1 for some big names, and we didn't quite catch all of what happened here. So we're going to have another watch here. There was the initial. So this was Dan Mould to the inside of the 911 machine. Contact there. I'm trying to look at who the 911 is. It's Gordon Haig. That was the initial bit of contact. Haig then slides it. This is when it gets into a bit of a bumper run for our drivers. Mould then goes off. Where does the rest of our drivers? Jack Brown is towards the rear of this, is he? No, he's already out. He has issues with connection. Right, then let's figure out what else happened in all of that, because there was more that was going on up towards the chicane. Mould sticks to the right. Was it here that it all happened? A bit further up the road. It was in this back, wasn't it? There was the initial contact. Then we obviously saw Mayle swing off to the right-hand side. I think what's important to note there is Mayle didn't actually hit anyone in that spin. And through the chicane, Mayle missed everyone. And with that being said, we're going to have to watch Mayle's onboard in all this, because I want to know what it was like riding in this car during all of that. You can see cars having issues around. It's going to be 3. He's already in a 3-4 car. He's 3 wide now. It's 4 wide now. Contact. He slides. Oh, how? How did he hit no one in all of that? That's just phenomenal. How he hit absolutely no one in all of that. With that being said then, let's have a little bit of a break from all of the carnage. I say that. We're going to have a little bit of a break from all the carnage for the time being, and we are going to have a look at some interviews with some of our drivers. To stick around here, because we're going to hear it from the drivers themselves at the end of that one. It was a interesting set of races. Race number 2 in particular, obviously, have always caused a bit of carnage, and we saw that going through in all of that one. We're going to talk to one of the drivers, though, that we saw getting involved in a lot of fighting throughout the evening. Lucas Henschel coming home in the end in that one. Race number 1, it was 21st position overall for Henschel. And in race number 2, we were able to come across the line in a much better 12th position of asking. Lucas, it's been a bit of a topsy-turvy weekend for you. Talk us through your evening of racing.
First off, did I entertain you? Did I entertain you? It was fun.
Definitely.
It was so fun. Yeah, first race, just you know, feeling the water, testing the waters, what's going on, and what to look for on this track. I've done some testing, but not actually like a lot. But it was fun, more fun than I expected. First race, took it safe. I don't know. I think I started around P20, finished around P20, P21, as you said. Was good. Second race, yeah, I got a lot of positions from all the crashing going on in front of me. Luckily, I avoided most of that. Nearly crashed into JB, but luckily didn't. Yeah, and then just held the position, caught the guys up front that were in a pack, so they were like half a second slower lap around that. And then I caught Olsen, Leah, and yeah, they had a bit of a going on, and I just took a really broad move around the outside, made it work somehow. I don't know how, but it worked out in the end, and it's I think P3 for the Pro-Ams, which is way better than everything I did last season, so I'm happy.
Yeah, it was third position in class in the Pro-Ams in race number 2. We were talking about race number 1 for you. Season number 1 for you in the Pro-Ams. It was a tricky one last season, of course. This season, however, you've had that experience underneath your belt now. It seems to be shining through. You were fighting with season 10 amateur champion Vegard Olsen-Lear, the man who was competing with him, Thomas Kuhn, as well. But there was a lot of, I think, well, from my perspective anyway, you've certainly learned a lot in the last season of competition because you're racing in that one a lot smoother. You took the opportunities exactly when they opened up. You created some absolutely entertaining fights going on, and you ended up at the front of that train of drivers, third position. And I'm going to say that I'm almost convinced that Mukalainen will find himself up in the semi-pros within a couple of weeks. So I think that might even be an even higher positioning class. But a great result, and you really have developed. Does this season, do you think it could be your season to take that championship fight this time? Not just sit back and learn, but actually actively go for a fight?
I don't want to leave myself too far out of the window, you know, Joseph, but maybe. I'm definitely wanting to. I'm just trying to get myself out of most of the scrambles, and yeah, if you do that, you're in a pretty good position. Of course, you need pace, but I think I can fight. I don't know if I can fight for the title. Kump very fast. I remember racing him two seasons ago in the AMS. So yeah, I think I can fight around the top. I don't want to say that I'm fighting for the title right now, but I've definitely learned a lot. Got used to the new cars. I have some strategies with my tires. I'm trying out right now. It seems to work, but yeah, don't want to say too much.
Well, it's nice to see you up the order in the Pro-Am field, and it's nice to see you up the order this season. Hopefully that will continue. Congratulations on a very strong weekend here around the Donington Park circuit.
Thanks, mate. Have a good one.
Lucas Henschel there coming home to take home, as he said, third position in class in that second race of the day. And what a fight it was. And we'll have a word now, if we can, with one of our drivers that ended up towards the front of the field across both of those ones, and see how it was going on, because Marko Mykolainen, he was showing some absolutely brilliant pace in both races. Race number 1, Marko, you were able to come across the line in 7th. You were able to do 6th in race number 2. You have got some absolutely brilliant pace out there.
Well, thank you. Got a little bit lucky there in the end.
Well, with a strong set of results in the first 2 rounds, taking class victory in both races, of course. Do you feel like you can carry this pace through into the remainder of the season? It's only been the first round. We can say, oh yeah, Marko Mykolainen, he's got some great pace going into this season. Do you think you can uphold that throughout the whole season, or was it this circuit that you seem to gel with?
Well, that's to be seen. Who knows what will happen in the future.
Well, when Marko Mykolainen, congratulations on some great results on that one, and looking forward to seeing you in the future.
Yeah, it was nice to be here in this race. It was my first, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Well done, Mykolainen. I'm glad to see you out there, and we're looking forward to seeing you continue to race. Good luck. Marko Mykolainen there, finishing this one in, like I said, 7th in race number 1, 6th in race number 2. It was first in class in both of those races, and we will say in all of that, it's been a great evening of racing that we will come to an end here around the SRL TV and Joseph White Broadcasting booth here for the first round of competition. It is going to be a brilliant season ahead of us. We go to Mugello in a week's time. Nürburgring for round number 3. Silverstone will be the 4th round of competition before we head to Imola for the halfway point. 6th round will be Watkins Glen ahead of going to Snetterton for round 7. 8 will be Thruxton. Round 9 will go to Mid-Ohio, and the 10th round of competition will end in the Netherlands, Circuit Zandvoort. Here, though, at the Joseph Wright Broadcasting booth here for SRL TV, we hope you have enjoyed the first round of competition. Now then, let's talk about how you can support each of the channels. SRL TV, if you're watching over there live right now, make sure, first of all, you're hitting that thumbs up button on the YouTube video. It really does help. And if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're not missing out any of these Friday races. It really does support the SRL team. Also, go over to the Discord as well. Get yourself involved in the conversation. Get yourself involved in the championship. Season number 12 will be coming up in 10 weeks' time, of course. Then make sure that you are getting yourself involved in all of the conversations and all of the chats there, letting up your opinion. And those that are joining in with the chats over on the YouTube as well, I keep all of them up, so I do watch them and interact as much as I can during the broadcast. If you're watching over on the Joseph White Broadcasting channels, first of all, over on the Twitch page, make sure you hit that follow button so you're notified when we go live. We go live at least 5 times a week, so make sure that you are hitting that follow button so you are notified every single time we get a broadcast out to you. If you're watching over on the YouTube channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the thumbs up, as I said before. But also, everyone should be going over to the Joseph White Broadcasting YouTube channel because the highlight videos for the SRL season will be coming up. There were no highlight videos for the pre-season events. However, the season 11 will get highlight videos as normal. So make sure that you are subscribing to the YouTube channel so you can catch the race highlights. So you can relive this amazing action, and if you don't quite have time to watch the whole broadcast, as it is almost 2 hours long, then you can just catch up on the highlight videos, which are normally within 20 minutes. But I hope you guys have a fantastic week ahead of you. We will be back in a week's time for round number 2. Season number 11 is thoroughly kicked off here, and I cannot wait to see how it continues in a week's time. Joseph Wright Broadcasting will be back live tomorrow for the next round of the Aztecs WEC Classic season for 90 minutes of racing competition in that multi-class event. So join us for that one. We'll be back live with more touring cars on Sunday as well, as we do every single Sunday. But here at SRL and the SRL TV, then make sure you are joining us next Friday for round number 2. Thank you so much for watching here today. We hope you have an absolutely amazing evening and an amazing week ahead of you. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.